Welcome to The Strange Accounts. I am your host, Matthew Carmona. If you've had an experience and want to come onto the show, you can email me at thestrangeacctspodcast@gmail.com. Today's guest is Robert. Robert lives in North London in the UK. Him and his son saw two woodwolves, British term for Bigfoot or Sasquatch. They saw these creatures in the woodlands behind their house. Robert says he saw the first one cloaked like the old Predator movie. He said it blended into the color of the silver birch trees. Inside these trees, he said the vibe was different. These woods we knew like the back of our hands felt like a million miles away. It was a strange day. We were present, but somewhere else. There was an odd glow all around us. This episode had me on the edge of my seat. I think you will enjoy the interview as much as I did. So please, sit back, get comfortable, and let's get to Robert. Welcome, Rob. Rob, thanks for coming on.
No problem.
And you're in the UK, correct?
Yes, north of England.
So you had an encounter with your son. How long ago was that?
It was the 18th of March, 2017. So a few years back now. Yeah, that'll be a day we'll never forget. So yeah, it was Saturday weekend. So a bit of context about what we was doing on that day, because all this happened by random chance. You know, it was just a typical day, and we walked into something maybe we shouldn't have done. And my son, he was invited to a birthday party. It was his friend's birthday party, his 8th birthday party. And we live on the north of Manchester, and the birthday party was on the south of Manchester. And the party started early, 10 a.m. So we had to get up early that Saturday morning. So I drove from where we lived to the south of Manchester, a place called Didsbury, it's called. And traffic was okay. It was fairly quiet, so it wasn't a problem going. So we go to this party, has a good time, right? And we leave, I think it was about 12:30, something like that, to come back home. Party had finished, we're on his way back. But as it's probably the same in Texas, Saturday afternoon is peak time for shoppers. And I had to drive through the city centre. It's the only way I can go. So I'm hitting all the weekend shopping traffic. It was an absolute ball ache, right? And we get back about, what time was it? About 2 o'clock, something like that, 2 in the afternoon. And my head was fried. I hate traffic. I do my best to avoid it, right? So we get in, it's mid-afternoon, and we come in, take our shoes off, coat, sit down, chill out. And I said to her, hey, fancy going out getting some fresh air? Right, I need to clear my head, I need some fresh air. So do you want to go and have a walk in the woods? Yeah, okay. Because Carrie's mom, she gets the tea on it for about 6 o'clock, or dinner, as you might call it. We call it tea in England, or north of England is tea. So we normally have tea about 6ish. So I said, come on, we've got a couple hours spare. Let's go for a walk, right? We'll go to our local woods. So it's only about a mile from where we live. And this is what happened. But I'll let you know, it's like, it was March. It was raining pretty heavy, but that didn't bother us. We just got his raincoats on, got his boots on, wrapped up, and went out. So it's pretty heavy rain. We get into the the entrance, you could say, the beginning of the woods, and there's not a soul around. There's no one there. Because normally we go there, you might see dog walker, someone running, maybe someone on a bike. There's usually the odd few people there, always. But on this particular day, there wasn't a soul around. It's like we had the whole woodland to ourselves. It was amazing. So we're walking on this path. You've got lakes and paths and pockets of woods, meadows. It's like a real nice mixed green area. It's a lovely little spot. And we're just walking and talking. He was talking about the party, what they did, blah blah blah. And the rain felt lovely. It was nice and fresh, lovely and quiet. And I'm looking across this field, and I'm not thinking of anything. I'm just gazing at the tree line, right? And a lot of trees in this woodland are predominantly silver birch trees. There's a few pines, a few oaks, but there's a lot of silver birch trees. And I'm looking at these trees, and then just out of nowhere, all of a sudden, I see this large figure. It moved from left to right between two silver birch trees. It was massive. And it moved in a way, a type of movement I've never seen it. It was like it floated. It was such a fluid movement. And it was only for a brief second, but I was looking right at it. And I could see this outline of a body. It's a head, it's just shoulders, and it's walking across. But the colour, it was like it was blended in with the colour of the silver birch trees. So I couldn't see any distinct features. I could just see the outline of it. Now I've heard this term cloaking. It could have been that. So Owen's at the side of me talking away, and it was like a lightning bolt went through my body. I was just like stunned. I was like, what's that? And I'm still stunned. I grab his arm like this. And he's like, what's up? What's the matter? He's looking at me, what's the problem? And I tried to explain to him what I've seen, right? I can't get over it now. It's mental. And so I do my best to describe what it was that I saw. And I'm reticent. I'm like, I don't know how to, compromise this. And Owen's like, my son, he's like, oh, let's go in and see what it is. Let's go in. Let's go in the woods. Let's go inside the trees and find it. I was like, all right, come on, let's have a look then, right? So we walk. As I said, it was about 50 meters away from us, and at the bottom of these birch trees, there's a lot of bush. It's brambles, it's nettles. So we tread through that, and we drop down a banking on the other side. So I then realized this thing must have been massive because I only saw the top half of it. I didn't see legs. It was like waist up. So in order for me to see it on the level of the field where we were, because it had dipped down into a steep slope going down, and at the bottom there's a stream at the bottom. It must have been tall. It must have been 7 foot at least. So I'm just like, figuring this out, and I said, okay, let's carry on. Let's walk. So we're sort of like off the paths now. We're off this field, and we're inside the woods now. So we hop over this stream, and we start walking deeper, more central inside of this woodland. But again, this area, it's like pockets of woods, it's pockets of woods. So we're in this pocket of wood, and the one thing I'll say to you, Matthew, this is an important thing to say. Look, we've lived there for 11 years now, and this woodland, we've been there hundreds and hundreds of times. We know it like the back of our hand, right? But the strange thing was, even though we knew where we were, it felt like we was a million miles away. It felt alien. It was a different vibe. That's what I picked up. As soon as we got inside the woods, it was a total different vibe. And also, because it was like, it was raining, there was a lot of mist in the air, a lot of moisture in the atmosphere. Where we were stood, there was like an odd glow around us, like the reflection of the trees, the foliage, the ground, There was an odd sort of a glow and a weird sort of energy about it. It felt totally off. We knew where we was, but it felt like we wasn't there. We were present, but not present. Doesn't make sense, any of this. So we continued to walk in. Then we hear like a running noise behind us. So we turn round but see nothing. But we heard it clearly, running, heavy footsteps running behind us, but we saw nothing. Then we both hear this weird sort of squeal, right? Like a squealing noise. It wasn't a deer, because I know the noises deer make. It wasn't a deer, it wasn't a bird. It wasn't anything I can say, that's such an animal or something. It was unfamiliar. It was an unfamiliar squealing noise. It was like a similar to like our pig would squeal. So high pitched and so loud, and it just echoed all around us. And at this point, I'm thinking, I got that feeling like we shouldn't be here. We let's just go, right? And I said, come on. I went like, let's go. I said, we're all right, because he was a bit shook up now. I said, we're all right. Come on, let's just go. Right, let's get back on the paths. Let's get out in the open and just go. So we're about to do that. Owen's behind me, and he taps me. He says, he taps me. He says, I've just seen someone. I said, what have you seen? He said, it's like a black figure down there. So he's pointing, in this direction. And where we're at now, there's a few pine trees. He said, down there, that big pine tree. He said, something peered round the tree. It looked at me, and then it went. So that was it. That confirmed it. Just get the hell out of there. And trust me, we were out of there like a rat up a drain pipe, right? Boom, we shot out of there. And as soon as we got out of the woods, we were out in the open. There's this large lake, and we went and sat on this stone bridge, and it was weird. As soon as we got out of there, everything had like returned back to normal. The feeling, the vibe. But where we was, that pocket, that small area, it was such a contrast from that. I can't put my finger on it, but that's what we walked into that day. But at the same time, like when we was like walking back to the car, we was laughing about it. When we got in the car, we was just talking about it. As soon as we got back, he was telling his mum what had happened. So that was our encounter back in 2017.
Wow. How old was your son?
He was 8.
He was 8 years old.
Yeah,
Okay.
so he's 13 now. He's 14 soon.
Gotcha. So when you saw the creature standing there, did you get any like good look of like its features, like its face or anything like that, or is it was just the outline?
But the one I saw, yeah, it was yeah. Again, I couldn't make any distinguishable features at all. It was just the outline of it. It's like it was blended into the colours of the trees, and it was like reflecting the light off it. Right? I mean, I don't know, similar to the old Predator movie, the Alien, how it wasn't exactly like that alien in Predator because that like it was like almost see through, wasn't it? It was, you know, I could see it more than that, but it was that blended in its color, or in a way, it's like it took the color on of the foliage that was surrounding it. I couldn't make anything distinguishable, any features or anything. But I saw the outline of it: its head, shoulders, arms, um, and I could tell it was bloody big as well. Whereas the thing that Owen saw, I asked him, I said, "Are you sure it wasn't just a man?" And he said, "No, it didn't look like a man. It was all black." So what he saw was more solid looking, physical, like features solid. Um, so it's interesting what I saw to what he saw was like two opposite things.
To like two different type of creatures.
Maybe,
Like he saw a black one and you saw a one that was more blended in,
yeah,
watching you guys as you were walking.
yeah. That's the feeling I had. It's like when we was right in the middle of that, it felt like we were but but just possibly being observed. I mean, I don't think we was in any danger, or I don't think these things were after hurting us or anything. I just think we just happened to walk in at that time while something was there. Maybe they didn't. Maybe whatever it was didn't expect it, as we didn't expect it. It just sort of like came together at that moment. But as I was trying to explain to you before, Matthew, what I've noticed was just the energy of the area. It was like even the smell of the place, the sight of it, the feeling. It was like we knew where it was. We were present, but elsewhere. It was different. Just the vibe of the area was just like, I don't know, totally
Do you
different.
feel like it was more of like you could have possibly been like went to more of like I guess the way of saying it would be like you got transported into a woods that are more older than where you were when you went in,
It could be that.
if that makes sense.
No,
Like
I've
when
read
you guys
I've read about portals and things. Right? Maybe it was that. I don't know. Did we slip into some other time or something, and we came back, or was our sort of regular 3D presence that we live in every day? Did that like cross with something else? Like a parallel sort of universe thing. I don't know. I've no idea. But your body can pick up on these things, and that's what I did with me. Um, it was like the familiar just for that moment came unfamiliar, but as soon as we walked out of that area, it was back to the familiar, back to that what you're used to.
right, you were back to your present time,
Yeah,
almost like it, like just like the idea of like you said, maybe did you step into time? Did you step maybe back in time, or did you step somehow entered through another parallel universe, experience those creatures, experience their habitat, and then when you left, you were back to where you were, your present time and your present stuff.
It could be that. I don't know, but what I do know is what my senses were telling me. You know what I saw on my senses, and it was just, you know, this shit don't happen ever, right? It's it's just very strange, um, but at the same time, it's like equally amazing because I got to experience it with someone, and that was with my son. I mean, he still remembers like today. We still have now and again we'll have a little talk about it, you know, here and there. Um, but I think like you know, because me, you know, as you get older, you get a bit conditioned and stuff. With children, they're still sort of pure in art, and you know that's why I was like, oh, let's go in. He was excited in that, you know, children no fear. Um, but as we were, as I said, treading in, and I was looking around, I was constantly like, just straight away picked up, like, you know, this ain't right. This isn't normal. You know, something's going on here, and we got uh, glimpses of some kind of creature, which as after that and reading in about you know, Bigfoot and stuff, um, I was thinking, yeah, it sounds like it could be that. It could be that phenomenon, some kind of Bigfoot creature we walked into. And the interesting thing is, it's like about Bigfoot itself. And by the way, I'm not a massive fan of that term Bigfoot. You know, it's just what everyone uses in it. But yeah, since that time, you know, I've spent a few years reading into it and um, watching all the witness accounts, and it's like what I saw. I've noticed when I've been looking into this subject that other people have had similar experiences to what I've had, where they've seen a creature, a figure that's sort of like blended in, cloaked to its environment around it. And I've heard that's popped up a few times when I've been looking into this subject as well. There's others who have had a similar sort of experience to me. Um, and what was interesting is it's like, um, you know, I was told, I mean, about Bigfoot itself, I've always like associated it to, you know, North America, Canada, Russia, you know, other parts of the world. But actually, it's always been like this mythical creature in Britain as well. It's interesting when I started reading into it about this creature in Britain. You can go back many centuries, and you know there's historical accounts of this mythical creature that's lived over here as well. But obviously, it wasn't called Bigfoot because Bigfoot's relatively a new term in recent modern history, isn't it? But in Britain, it's called the Wood Walls, Forest Folk, Green Man, and you can see church statues. Uh, they'll have of this creature, you know, and you can go to the library, read about it. You know, there's stuff on the internet about this subject, this creature in Britain as well. So I was sort of like surprised. My experience kind of like opened a door to new information about reality that I had no idea previous to. So from that experience, that you know, I learned so much about um, you know, this creature that kind of is like is adapted and lives around us, but at the same time, he's somehow has got that skill to be super elusive even to this day. Even though like today with modern technology, the you know the trail cams, infrareds, cameras we got, all the technology we have today, still to this day remains super elusive. It's like they're the masters of um, staying away from humans, basically.
Yeah, it's almost like they have the ability to sense whenever this technology is being used. You know, if someone's got a
Yeah.
camera, it's almost like they can sense whether it's the energy that they give off, like the Trev cam, and how they have to stay out of view. Like all you catch is you see pictures when you look on the internet, when you do searching or you listen to other podcasts, and it's, oh yeah, it's just a blob, it's just a blur, or it looks like an arm, or it looks like it could
Mm,
be some body part, but you can't distinguish if it's a bear or if it's a deer or if it's another
yeah.
small creature that's just running through the woods and just happens to come across it. So it's like I said, you have it's a fascinating account, and I think it actually helps to have another person there with you who can validate that. Hey, I didn't just make this up. There's somebody else that was over there to validate it with me and experience that, and also have another encounter on himself. To be like, oh look, there's another one. Look, Dad, there's another one. And so I think that will it makes it to where you don't feel like you're losing your mind in a way, like so. Uh, but I've heard of like from listening and done some research into the subject of like the cloaking or more of the ability to like it's there, you can see it and you can see the outline. And some of them, it's from what I've read, it's like it can be seen through, or just like similar to what you said, where it's like it's there, but it's not there, and that's where you kind of question, like, okay, is that another reality? Am I looking at like peering for like it's trying to come through, or you're just,
Yeah.
is it actually using some type of technology to hide? So, yeah, yeah. For me, man, it's a fascinating account, and so you're talking about like when you went in there, it was different. Like you stepped into a different area than what you were used to walking in.
Yeah, that's it. It's like um, we've always been out. Like our family, we're woodsy people. We love the outdoors. We love nature. Um, Not a massive fan of big shopping centers or malls, as you call it in America. We don't do that, right? We do his work, and in our spare time, we love to go for walks and stuff. And the it's like where we live in the north of England. It's like literally within 30 minutes in any direction where we live, there's remote places. There's forests and all kind of beautiful landscapes you can go to. But if we don't fancy trekking out, we've got the woodlands right behind us. And so, yeah, we spend a lot of time there. We even went there this morning. Actually, we were out there this morning, and so we know it very well. We know all the meadows, the pockets of woods, the streams, and etc. We know it. It's a lovely little sort of hidden spot. But it was the first thing that after what I saw, and then when we went inside, just straight away it was palpable. I could just tell it wasn't normal. It was like a complete different vibe. Um, as I said before, Matthew, I noticed as well. It was like a weird sort of glow in. There's a lot of fluid in elements in the atmosphere, the moisture, the rain, the mist. 'Cause you know what March is like? March is still, it's pretty wintry. The trees are still bare, even though you're approaching spring, but it still can be wintry days. So the trees are bare, and it was like a lot of cloud and mist, and it was weird. It was just a very odd sort of glow. just an odd glow around us, the whole area where it was at. It was like an amethyst type color. You know, it was very odd, beautiful as well, but very strange. And of course, we know where we are, but again, it felt like we was a million miles away. It was so strange, and all that we heard and saw happened within that sort of that vibe, you know. So, and that's something I've never experienced since or ever before, you know. There's times I do this a lot. I like to go for woodland walks on my own at dark, you know, take my torch. It's amazing because, you know, all the wildlife comes out. You know, I've seen deer loads of times doing that. I'll go out at dark. There's no one around, and that's never bothered me. It doesn't bother me. It's a sort of different. It's like a different buzz. But this was just a regular Saturday afternoon, and the odd thing was there was literally not a single person around. We didn't see one person that afternoon. So I don't know. Maybe the conditions were right for some kind of crossover. Where you said before about them picking up energy of humans. So if they do that, they'll be elsewhere, won't they? So maybe because it was a quiet afternoon, they just decided to sort of move in, or they were passing through, perhaps, because the conditions were right for them to do that. There was no one around. It could have been that, maybe. But us two idiots, you know, who goes out in the pouring rain, people, you know, on a weekend rather be chilling out in front of the TV or something, right? You know,
Right.
no one does that. So with the fact that we were the only two humans in that area that afternoon, that could have contributed to it, maybe.
Let's go back and talk a little bit about the creature that you saw. How big do you say it was?
As a rough guess, again, I only saw the top half of it. So again, I'm, you know, about 50 meters in front of me. The tree lines there, there's bushes and stuff at the bottom on the ground. I see the top half of it. I don't see the bottom half. I don't see legs or anything. So as soon as we treaded through that and got to the other side of those bushes and nettles and stuff, it was a bank and going down. You know, it was like a fairly steep drop. So again, I just figured for the fact that I could see it on the field level above, you know, and I only saw the top half of it. You know, his lower half would have been hidden behind the bushes and down the banking a little bit. You know, it must have been tall. Must have been tall. Yeah, 7 foot at least.
And then you continued on walking, and then what? It just kind of stepped out of sight. It turned around and
Yeah,
kind of stepped out of sight.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. So I'm just sort of just looking ahead again, not thinking of anything. I'm just looking at the trees, chit chatting away. And I saw it must have only been for a second or so. It just sort of like just floated across like that. Between you've got two silver birch trees. It floats across. Um, and the odd thing is, it was like no sound came from it. There was no sound. You know, you'd expect a creature with a body to, if you're trudging through bushes and stuff, you might hear a snap or something. But it was just so fluid movement. It's a type of movement I've never seen before. And then it had gone, it disappeared because it was like a gap, you know, in the tree line. You got trees and bushes and stuff, so it was like a gap between two silver birches. In a way, it's like if you know, you see someone walking, they're inside their house and they walk past the window. It's that gap you see in it, and you can see someone walk across the window. It's like so. The trees and bushes and stuff. This was like a gap in the tree line that I saw it move between. You know, so once it went to my right, I then couldn't see it. You know, it was behind more bushes and stuff and tree. I couldn't see it once it had moved through that gap. So I just caught a glimpse of it moving through that gap in the trees. You know, I wish I'd have seen it for longer, but you know, I saw it enough for it to get my attention. And as I said, what my son saw, that I mean, in terms of time, I mean, I don't know, it wouldn't have been much long after what I saw. So once we walked through the brambles and stuff and dropped down the banking and hopped over the stream and walked into the woodlands and I don't know, maybe walked about half a mile, something like that. And then when what he saw, I don't know, maybe what wasn't any more than 10 minutes after what I saw. It was pretty, you know, close. I saw something and he saw something pretty close together.
He never saw yours, and you were never able to see his,
No,
correct?
that's true. Yeah. Because when after we heard the running noise behind us and that sort of odd vocalization that was like such a high pitch, and it seemed to echo around us. And again, that feeling of being surrounded, I was like, it was sort of like it kicked in. Come on, we shouldn't be here. That's the feeling I had. We shouldn't be here. We walked into something. Here, let's just go. So I started walking. He's behind me, and then he taps me because he saw it, behind him. So yeah, I didn't see his. He didn't see mine. But what we did share though was the running noise and that vocalization. We both shared that together. And I think he obviously knew as well what I was feeling. It was just different, something was off. He initially started off like, full of excitement. Let's go in there, see what it is. Where he was, I could tell he was a bit worried as well. So, that's why we soon exited.
Yeah, I can imagine. I probably would have done the same.
Yeah,
You're like, I don't know what I just saw, and he's like, "Come on, Dad, let's go,
yeah.
let's go check this out." And then as you're going that direction, he goes, "Hey, Dad, there's one right here," and turn around and sees one farther down. Man, and that scream, you said it sounded like a pig screaming.
Yeah. I mean, that's the closest thing I can describe it as. It was so high pitched, like a squeal. Like you see these big pigs, the squeal and like a grunt noise. It was like that. But again, I've heard deer call a few times. They can make some crazy noises, but it wasn't that, and obviously it wasn't a bloody bird. And it was just a weird sort of how it echoed as well. It's like it was like in a place where it was like nothingness because it was echoed that much. And that was it. As soon as we heard that, I thought, man, that's it. We've got to go now. And I just reasoned that I don't know if it was just two of them. I don't know if there was any more of them, or if there was a clan of them. I don't know. But again, it's just that feeling of being watched and that feeling of being surrounded. And it's that fight or flight thing in it, and we got to go. Let's go. And it's funny that particular spot. We've been a few times there since. Obviously, we will walk through it because it's right at the beginning of the woodland. It's just crazy. It's like I look around and think, man, it's got that familiar feel about it. But at that time, that afternoon, it wasn't familiar.
It wasn't the woods that you were used to.
Exactly.
As
Yeah. Yeah.
as you say that, because I was going to ask, do you travel to that location often?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's like it's an interesting area because where we live, you got like Manchester city centre. We're on the north of the city. It's about 4 or 5 miles away to the city centre where we live, and so we live on the edge of town, and this whole area is called the Irwell Valley, and it stretches right north of England, and it pretty much starts from the woods where we are now, and as you head north, it kind of spreads out, and if you keep going, you then come to the remote places in an area that's called the Pennines. So it's like a green corridor. It's like a woodland here that's not really that far away from civilization, the city. It's not. And I've heard about this on other accounts, other witnesses where they've lived on the edge of the city, and there's a woodland that's pretty close to the city, and they've had sightings there near urban settled areas. I've heard of that quite a few times. It's like that here. And as you go more further north, there's other towns, but then these woods is sort of like spread around the outside areas of it, and there's these green corridors that separate the towns as you go more further north. But as I spoke to you before we came on air, this Irwell Valley starts from Manchester here and spreads north of Lancashire. And this immediate area where we live now, the woods where we're at now, wasn't like this. Industrial revolution. Since that time, it was an active coal mine area. It was canal systems, railway systems, power plants, factories. And I've seen old archive pictures of this area from, say, like 1900. And it just looks nothing like it now today, because it was central to the industry. But all that came to an end. The mines had stopped, and the factories became abandoned, and they knocked them down, and it was just like it's what's called like brown belt land. I mean, you got green belt land around towns and cities, but this is like a brown belt area where you got like a lot of disused buildings, etc., and they all got flattened. And I think it was the 1980s and 1990s. Forestry England had a tree planting project in this area here, and since then, it's like nature's reclaimed it, and this it's alive and active with wildlife now. It's amazing, and you see such a contrast to what this Irwell Valley looked like back then to today. So it's a complete change of how it used to be. So yeah, you had the wet earth colliery mines, and factories, mills. Even here, there's a lot of disused canal networks at the back here too. That back in the day they were, they'd be transporting the coal from the mines, but that's been and gone now, and nature has reclaimed this area, and wildlife has moved in, life has moved back to these areas, and so maybe these other as well, you know.
Right. It's almost like, man comes in, does what he does to the environment, does what he does. He's done. And then nature, it's crazy how nature comes back takes back over, and it's like it never even existed. It's like
yeah,
humans were never here.
yeah. It's like now if we was to walk in this woodland and just basically head north along this Irwell Valley, you can still see the remnants of the mines. You see the old railway tracks. You can even see like foundations of where the factories were, but it's just like all the foliage has just swallowed it up. But you can still see remnants of it now today. You know, but yeah, as you said, man did what he wanted to do, left the area, and nature's took it back, and it's beautiful again.
That's awesome, awesome. So before we wrap this up, when you were in there, was there anything else that seemed out of the ordinary, such as like, did you see any orbs or did you see anything lights? I don't know if you ever heard of that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I didn't. I mean, I didn't see any orbs with my eyes. I mean, I've seen a lot of orb stuff, footage, and things like that. But I know I've already said this, but it's just. I think the main important thing about this experience we had, it's actually what was more striking is not the creatures or figures we saw, even though that was like wow. That was just like that was something that accompanied the fact that it was that feeling of being present but not present. That was the biggest uh, thing that I took away from that experience. I mean, it wasn't even the vocals or the running noise we saw or the figures we saw. I mean, that was like mad in itself. But it was just like it was. I know you use these words loosely, I guess, but if it was another dimension or something that we walked into, I can't explain it, but it was that feeling of just being somewhere that we know like the back of his hand, but it felt completely unfamiliar, like we wasn't there, like we was a million miles away, and I felt that, and again, it was just that strange sort of glow that was around us in that area. That was the most striking thing about it, and there's such an odd thing about it. It was like just as soon as we left where it was all happening, and we got to that lake and we sat on the stone bridge. It was just like flicking a switch. It was like just being back to normality, just back to the everyday. But just over there where we wasn't. We were somewhere else. That was the thing that was like just so palpable. And as I said to him after, I've never experienced such a shift in the senses within myself ever before or since. It's just like walking somewhere else. Crazy.
Well, like I said, it's a fascinating, man. That's yeah, to kind of experience that to know that you're there where you expected you to be, but in reality, everything else is telling you you're not.
Yeah,
You're
yeah,
not where you're supposed to be. You're like, so I can't even imagine how that's got to feel. Like you said, it's you've never felt that way in your entire life before or after
yeah.
since that account.
Because I've heard
So
about it. I mean, as I said before, since that experience, I started reading into it and what other witnesses, and just reading as much as I can on it. And and what popped up during that was how Bigfoot can maybe be interdimensional. I'm sure you've heard of that yourself. Interdimensional, where they can sort of pass through portals from one place to the other. I don't know if it's true. Maybe I'm not sort of dissing that. I'm open minded to it, but going along that line of thought, it's like what we walked into, what we was feeling. Um, this sort of portal type thing. I mean, maybe it was that. It could have been because it kind of fits that line of thinking. That you've stepped into some other sort of dimension, maybe, strange.
It is. It is. It is a strange account and a strange encounter. So, but Robert, man, I appreciate you coming on. You're gonna be my third guest
Okay.
for the podcast. So, man, I really appreciate you coming on and telling your experience and your encounters of what you and your family went through.
No worries. It was a pleasure to talk to yourself. Because again, I don't. Who do I talk to? I don't really speak to anyone about this. Nobody.
Right.
So it's a rare thing for me to be so open about it. And it's nice to share that with people that know the score with this subject.
Like you said, I appreciate you for giving me the opportunity to sit down and talk with you and to hear your story and to hear your experience.
Okay.
So thank you, man. I appreciate it.
Cool. No props.
You have a good one, Rob.
Bye-bye.
All right, folks. That's about wraps up this week's episode. Again, if you've had an experience and want to come onto the show, you can email me at thestrangeacctspodcast@gmail.com. I'll also post the new episodes on a YouTube channel called Strange Accounts Podcast. Please like, subscribe, and leave a comment on what you thought of this week's episode. Now, if you are listening to the show on another podcast platform such as Spotify or Apple Podcasts, I'd appreciate it if you would leave a 5-star review and comment, as this will help the show grow and reach new listeners. So please like and share this podcast with friends and family. Thank you for listening, and have a good night. Remember, you can never listen to too many podcasts.